Good morning. Your sleep for Olympic athletes the night before the big race is critical, so we'll be talking to the sleep coach to the sports stars. Also today we're talking Chinese food, and after 10 our phone in the allotment king, Terry Walton's here answering your questions.
On our team today we have Sean on news, Jacob with the travel, Ben Az with the weather forecast and Simon on sport.
All right here between now and midday.
Bringing you the big Welsh moments from the Olympic Games.
This is BBC Radio Wales. From Aberdare to Ammanford,
Tredegar to Tenby.
make the most of your mornings.
BBC Radio Wales. They're going to have a great morning, aren't they? Jamie and Louise with you all morning here on BBC Radio Wales, coming up in the next hour.
The quality of your sleep for Olympic athletes like the cyclist Geraint Thomas competing later today, the night before the big race, is critical, so we'll be talking to the sleep coach to the sports stars.
Also, if you love Chinese food, this is a treat. We'll hear about an epic 3,000-mile cook's tour of China. BBC Radio Wales.
Do you love Chinese food?
Absolutely.
I love Chinese food. Ken Hom, the godfather of Chinese cuisine, and Ching He-Huang, the leading chef of the contemporary Chinese cooking scene, have undertaken the most extraordinary, epic 3,000-mile culinary adventure across China for a new BBC television series. It's called Exploring China, a culinary adventure. It begins on Sunday evening. I'm delighted to say that Ching is with us this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
What a treat. This sounds amazing. Tell us about this cook's tour.
Thank you. It was really exciting. You know, we spent over 5 weeks there and really thrown in the depths of it in the cities and in the countryside as well. And so we got to cook with families, with chefs, and just uncovering the best of Chinese cuisine that we can, really, in this short space of time. Because obviously China's massive and it's huge. So it was really quite an ambitious project.
Chinese cuisine, as you know it, I guess must be very different as how we know it from the takeaways that we visit here in Wales.
Absolutely, it is different. Obviously, the food in the UK, Chinese food, it's absolutely, you know, it's more anglicised, slightly created, you know, for the Western palate. A lot of the dishes are a little bit more sweeter, and I guess, you know, also, I mean, it's just adapted, you know, over time. In China, I mean, there's over 34 regions, and each region has its own speciality and its produce. So definitely the food is going to be totally different. And also at home, a lot of home cooking, it's a lot more lighter. And we use a lot more vegetables as well in our cooking. So a lot of the meat is just little pieces of meat and used to flavour a lot of vegetables. So yeah, it's definitely there's a big difference between the food that we get in the UK and then the Chinese food that you get over there in China.
Now, a little bird tells me you didn't like all of it. What's this about seahorse on a stick? Turning your nose up?
Have you seen it already?
Oh, I couldn't possibly say.
Oh,
know all about it.
Oh,
this is from someone who eats chicken feet and duck's tongue, but you didn't like your seahorse on a stick, did you?
I know. I mean, you know what? I am Chinese at heart, and obviously I have this Chinese heritage, and I love to say that I'm an adventurous eater.
But you draw the line.
I think I draw the line when it comes to seahorses and also cockroaches.
You don't like a cockroach?
Sea cockroach.
And why? You know, what is it about those things that you don't want to eat?
I mean, I can deal with like offal.
Yeah,
and
chicken's feet,
and yes, and chicken's feet. You know, different parts of the animal. I'm all game, but when it comes to insects and stuff, I just draw the line.
But that is part of the culinary offering, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, hey, Ken was all gusto. He went for it. He loved it. He's a real Cantonese, you know, adventurous eater, and he'd try anything. And of course, insects going forward in the next 21st century is supposed to be really how to put it, it's great for the environment because we've got more food resources, right? So,
yeah, we were talking about this on the show yesterday. Insects is the next big thing.
Exactly, it's the next big thing. And I guess I just have to wrap my head around it and get creative in the kitchen with insects. So I think it's one that I find personally challenging.
So you're obviously a very richly established cook, and your recipes are well known around the world. But in terms of travelling across China, did you must have discovered parts of the country that you hadn't been to before?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. It's such a huge, vast country. And when we started this project, it was like, well, where do we start?
Yeah.
All these different regions. And obviously, we also wanted the viewers to have a bit of the known. So, they've heard of Beijing, or they might have been to Beijing. But then also we wanted to try and discover the unknown parts. And I really hope that we managed to show that over the 4 episodes in the program. But we went to, there's places like Kashgar in Xinjiang, which is the western province, furthest most western province of China. It was just like a completely different world. I felt like I was in Turkey or in Central Asia. The people there didn't look Chinese, Han Chinese. They had their own distinct culture, food, and they have lots and lots of history, and the food was so fascinating, and you could tell the influences. It was where all of the cultures of Italy, Marco Polo, the Silk Route, in Chinese, Han Chinese culture, where it all came together and sort of met in this place. So it was really fascinating for me, and we just delved into that culture, and we just learnt so much.
Ching, stay with us. We've got so much to talk about. We're going to take a break for the traffic and travel news now. 20 to 10, here's Jacob.
Jamie, thank you. M4's looking good. No major problems with the motorway. Traffic Wales cameras showing a clear run across the South Wales patch at the moment.
We're discussing a new BBC Two TV series exploring China, a culinary adventure. It begins on Sunday evening. Ching He-Huang is the presenter and chef. She joins Ken on the show. I wonder, Ching, are the basic sort of ingredients of the cuisine of the whole of China? Are there basic ingredients that tie the whole country together?
Absolutely. It's obviously there's regional differences,
yes.
But definitely there's about, I'd say, 6 store cupboard staples that you have to have, and there are definitely definitely a good peanut oil or groundnut oil.
Yeah.
So a good oil that you can use for stir frying and for deep frying, that has a high temperature, that you can cook at high temperatures with, basically. And definitely light soy sauce and dark soy sauce. Now, light is used for saltiness, for seasoning, and dark soy sauce is used for braised dishes and caramelizing, for that sort of deeper, richer color. And and it's not so much used for saltiness. Then I'd say definitely a good rice vinegar, whether it's a white rice vinegar made from white rice, or black rice vinegar made from black rice. The white one is slightly more sharper, sweeter. The black one is slightly more sort of mellower and sort of more earthy, a bit more rich. Think like your balsamic vinegar. Mm-hmm. So those two definitely. And then I'd have to say Chinese 5 spice. It's just the spice that's used in a lot of dishes across China. It's got cinnamon, cloves, Sichuan pepper, fennel, and star anise. And they together make up the sort of the 5 tastes of Chinese cooking, which is sort of sweet, salty, fiery, pungent, aromatic. And warming.
And is China struggling with the same food issues as Britain and Western countries? We've got this huge obesity epidemic in the UK at the moment. Is China struggling with the same kind of issues, the domination of or the start of the big food chains? What is the picture?
Well, definitely China's going through big transition. So as it goes becomes a much more developed country, they've got lots of food issues there. I think, I don't know if I'm right in saying this, but from the newspapers that I read when I was over there, it's like 1 million Chinese are becoming middle class every year. So, their income is increasing, and therefore, the Chinese love to eat. It's also a very social thing. So obesity definitely is a growing problem. And then you've got I think over 50,000 KFCs which have opened up, all over China. So fast food restaurants, and so that's the way that Chinese people are eating is changing, and so that worries me a little bit as well going forward.
Because
in the future.
Chinese cuisine, in its simplest form and in its traditional form, is pretty healthy, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about health. Chinese cuisine, when we talk about Chinese food, it has this long history that actually food is medicine. That's the philosophy, that what you feed yourself, you're actually preventing ill health and maintaining good health. And that's what it's all about. So it's yin and yang, the balance.
Yes, yeah.
And because for centuries, China was very, very poor. There was no doctors. If you were ill, you're in trouble. I mean, there's no healthcare. There's no NHS, so no safety net. So health is all you had, really.
And food played a big part of that then, obviously.
Absolutely. And so, yes, I mean, when we were there, we did see a lot of fast food restaurants, and people's eating habits obviously change as the country develops. But hopefully, people retain their sort of their grassroots, which is holding on to the tradition. I mean, there's many places outside of the cities now which are promoting sort of a back to your roots culture, where you can stay in villages with farmers and kind of reconnect. So a lot of young people are going, sort of back into the countryside and experiencing rural life, and that's where you really get to connect with the farming communities and the way people eat, and how frugal people are, and it makes you a bit more humbling. And I think things like that should be villages like that, or programs like that should definitely be promoted more widespread, not only in China, I think everywhere around the world, because it makes people more connected with food. Where
does your love of food begin? Because you were born in Taiwan, weren't you? And your mum and dad were Chinese.
Yes, I was born in Taiwan. My great-grandparents came from China, from Fujian, during the sort of Ming Dynasty. That's when a lot of the Fujianese broke off and settled in Taiwan. So as a result, I can speak Fujianese dialect as well, because I grew up with my grandparents in Taiwan, in Kaohsiung, which is in the south. So it's a farming community. I'm a farm girl. I grew up with chickens and pigs, etc. on my grandparents' farm when my parents were working in Taipei, in the city, because that's the norm. Growing up at that time, is that your grandparents look after you, and while your parents worked. So that was my background, and I didn't realize I'd grow up to be a cook, but I think that's where the inspiration, much of my sort of recipes come from my grandmother, and in remembering her and the way we used to eat, because I'm very much a city girl now that I'm in London and, in the West, brought up in the West. But going back and doing a show like this has just been absolutely amazing for me, because it just reinforces and it shows me sort of how diverse and rich Chinese culinary culture is.
We've had a tweet from Kev, who says he's definitely going to tune into the show. He says, but Ching, did you go to, and I hope I say this right, Sichuan province?
Yes,
and did you like the food there?
Oh my goodness. You guys are going to love. I really hope you enjoy the program. We try to explore the very best of Sichuan, and it's such an amazing region with the best food. If you love spicy food, that is the show you got to watch. It's Ken and I get up to all sorts in Sichuan. I'm not going to ruin it, but it's an amazing region, lots of history, lots of great food, and the people there are so passionate about food. Sometimes we were shot down in flames, if we're saying,
Yes.
certain things, and it's like, oh, what do you know? You're not Sichuanese, we know our food, blah, blah, blah. So, no, there's a lot of good, healthy debate.
We've established what you don't like. You don't like the seahorse on a stick delicacy. We know you're going to pass on that. Of all the 3,000-mile journey, if you had to pick one dish that for you was the best on the whole of this the whole of this journey, what would it be?
Oh my goodness, that's really, really, really hard. I would have to go with the Peking duck in Beijing, hands down. Yeah.
Why was that so good?
It was, there were two dishes that were cooked by two different chefs. One was very traditional and one sort of very modern, and both just exquisite. And I love Peking duck. So yeah, for me, that was hands down. And also we learnt some special techniques along the way as well. So I'm not going to ruin it. But please, do watch it on Sunday. That's the first one going out, which is focused on Beijing. So the Peking duck recipe is in the show on Sunday.
I'm feeling a little bit hungry.
Is it too early for a Chinese?
No, I don't think it
I
is.
don't think it is.
I don't think it is. When you're cooking at home, what would be your favourite dish at home? It's just something quick and simple that you can give us a quick recipe for.
Something quick and simple. I love really good sort of soup tonic. So even if it's summertime, sometimes I get up the ginger, boil up a good sort of vegetable stock, and then add in some chicken. So chicken thighs with all the bones in, because it's really good. And then add some vegetables like Chinese leaf or Chinese cabbage and spring onions, and then sometimes throw in some sort of rice noodles in as well. So something really healthy and warming and comforting. And nourishing. That's that's what's good. Or sometimes just a quick stir fry. Chuck in all the vegetables you've got in the fridge. Add a bit of garlic, ginger, chili, a bit of soy sauce, sesame oil. So easy and so good for you.
And so quick.
Yeah, so quick.
What was it like working with Ken Hom then, the godfather of Chinese cuisine?
The godfather. Well, he really is a godfather, and you can watch the show and just and see how we sort of fare. But at the beginning, I was really nervous because I was thinking, wow, 5 weeks, and we'd worked together before a few times, and he's so lovely. But I thought 5 weeks is a long time, and we got on really well, and he's superb. He's just lovely.
Really looking forward to seeing the shows, which start on Sunday. Lovely to talk to you, Ching He-Huang, presenter of the show Exploring China, a culinary adventure. It's a 4-part series beginning on BBC 2 Wales on Sunday at 8 o'clock.
Thanks, Ching. All the best. Jamie and Louise with you on BBC Radio Wales. The latest news, sport, travel and weather from the BBC after Tom Jones. Love Chinese food. Ken Hom, the godfather of Chinese cuisine, and Ching He-Huang, the leading chef of the contemporary Chinese cooking scene, have undertaken the most extraordinary, epic 3,000-mile culinary adventure across China for a new BBC television series. It's called Exploring China, a culinary adventure. It begins on Sunday evening. I'm delighted to say that Ching is with us this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
What a treat. This sounds amazing. Tell us about this cook's tour.
Thank you. It was really exciting. We spent over 5 weeks there, and really thrown in the depths of it, in the cities and in the countryside as well. And so we got to cook with families, with chefs, and just uncovering the best of Chinese cuisine that we can, really, in this short space of time. Because obviously China's massive and it's huge. So it was really quite an ambitious project.
Chinese cuisine, as you know it, I guess must be very different as how we know it from the takeaways that we visit here in Wales.
Absolutely, it is different. Obviously, the food in the UK, Chinese food, it's absolutely, it's more anglicised, slightly created, for the Western palate. A lot of the dishes are a little bit more sweeter, and I guess, also, I mean, it's just adapted, over time. In China, I mean, there's over 34 regions, and each region has its own speciality and its produce. So definitely the food is going to be totally different.
Good morning. Your sleep for Olympic athletes the night before the big race is critical, so we'll be talking to the sleep coach to the sports stars. Also today we're talking Chinese food, and after 10 our phone in the allotment king, Terry Walton's here answering your questions.
On our team today we have Sean on news, Jacob with the travel, Ben Az with the weather forecast and Simon on sport.
All right here between now and midday.
Bringing you the big Welsh moments from the Olympic Games.
This is BBC Radio Wales. From Aberdare to Ammanford.
Tredegar to Tenby.
Make the most of your mornings.
They're going to have a great morning, aren't they? Jamie and Louise with you all morning here on BBC Radio Wales, coming up in the next hour.
The quality of your sleep for Olympic athletes like the cyclist Geraint Thomas competing later today, the night before the big race, is critical, so we'll be talking to the sleep coach to the sports stars.
Also, if you love Chinese food, this is a treat. We'll hear about an epic 3,000-mile cook's tour of China.
Do you love Chinese food?
Absolutely.
I